All right. I want to thank you all for joining us for our very first this is our first, right? Critical
Yeah.
conversation of the new year. It's fantastic to see all of you back on campus. Today is going to be updates from PLC on important information that we all need to know. Before I turn this over to Phil, I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this session. It will be available within probably about 48 hours after we conclude today. As usual, chat is going to be turned off during the presentation portion. Once every presenter has finished speaking, I will open up chat. You can submit questions or comments through the chat, but we always encourage you to raise your little emoji hand and unmute yourself, and we will call on you and answer the questions in the order that they are received. All right, Phil, take it away.
Thanks so much, Beth, and thanks for facilitating this conversation today and for helping us drive slides. I want to thank you all for participating and welcome back and welcome to the spring semester. Many of you have been incredibly busy with classes and meetings and getting things started as we bring our students into a new semester. So I want to thank you for all your efforts. I hope you're coming back refreshed for the faculty and for the staff. You've done amazing work to make sure that we have everything in place to be able to continue to respond to our students. So I want to thank you for all of your efforts. We talked about this opportunity to use this critical conversation this month to really give you a sense of what's coming up in 2025 with lots of changes and an opportunity for us to clarify a number of things that will be really important to you today. I will tell you that each of the vice presidents has been asked to do about approximately 5 minutes, although, 5 minutes goes by really fast. So just bear with them. There will be a lot of content presented today. I also want to tell you that in many of the presentations that you're going to see, while one vice president may be talking about or an executive director may be talking about an area, this means that this has been a collective work between a lot of people, both on PLC and across the institution. So I just want to be mindful of the fact that topics that come up in one place may bring up more questions and everywhere on the end. So we're going to ask that you save your questions to the end. We're going to present a lot of information, so I encourage you to take some notes, follow up a little bit with where we are. And again, some of these topics are going to bleed into each other, so I really want to thank you. Beth, you can go ahead and get started with my slide. I really want to say that this is really important for us. It's an important year for the college. I would say that we are in a great fiscal situation. You'll hear about that today. Our enrollment is in really great shape. We have a lot of really exciting things happening at the institution, but we are also, I want to go back, Beth, one, please. We're also really challenged with a lot of change. This is not unusual in higher ed. This happens all the time. We have new federal administration. We have in the past had changes in state government. We, as an institution, are very focused on our mission and the work that we do with our students. And so each and every day we spend our time really preparing ourselves for that work. We have spent a lot of time over the January break in some retreats with my senior level staff talking about the road ahead, especially with a lot of changes that we anticipated would be coming from the new administration in DC. And we'll be down doing some advocacy work with them in a couple of weeks with many of our trustees. So first, I want to start with the fact that the last week has felt like 6 months in terms of the pace of change. As we know, the new administration has come in with a real effort to make significant changes, turn back a lot of previous executive orders, and to create a series of promises that came from that campaign to be able to respond to those promises and to act upon them. I want to remind all of you that no matter what the situation with the federal government or with our government here at the state, the institution will continue to do the work that we do every day, and that we have been planning for a lot of these issues and trying to be as prepared as possible as a senior leadership team. First and foremost, I wanted you to know that you will find on this slide the most recent summary from DC about the executive orders as of last Friday. As you well know, there's been a significant amount of different executive orders that have occurred over the weekend, and one as early as today that's also referenced there about federal grant programs. So you have a summary of what occurred last week and the most, comprehensive list that I can think of, and we're going to be touching upon a number of those things today. And I want you to know that as these executive orders have come out, my senior staff members and other members of the leadership team across the institution have been meeting to make plans and adjustments and be able to respond to those executive orders in the best way that we possibly can to serve our students and to make sure that we are following the rule of law and at the same time making sure that we're well prepared. So in that, you're going to hear later today a couple of things that are critically important for all of you to be paying attention to. Number one is the fact that we all have to be very versed in FERPA, and we have to understand student information rights and how that plays out. And the people that are frontline people really certainly have this down to a science, but I certainly want to make sure that everyone knows that we all have a responsibility to understand the rights of our students and how that plays out at the institution. I want to make sure that we also know that we have been doing a lot. You've been seeing it out on Newscaster, the work from Mira, to be able to really respond to the situation that has occurred for those who have undocumented or different forms of status that are being addressed by this administration. That we have a plan for them, not only for their rights in terms of how they might be confronted at home, but also we'll be covering today how we respond as an institution and how we have always responded as an institution. We are, in many ways, because of our front desk efforts and because of our ID process, are in a much better place to respond to some of the critical changes to be able to protect our environment in terms of public and private spaces. So this is just information to let you know that in a general sense, we are paying attention to everything that happens on a daily basis. We have prepared for as much as it as we possibly can, and you're going to see some of that preparation sort of sprinkled throughout the presentations today. I have to leave today at 2:30 and jump on another Zoom because the Secretary of Education, Secretary Tutwiler, who came to visit us for our ribbon cutting in the nursing area, and also Commissioner Ortega, will be holding a statewide meeting for all presidents of all 29 public institutions for them to respond to the most recent executive orders and what we will be doing within the state of Massachusetts. And so I'm going to be jumping on that Zoom to really get caught up with what's happening from the state level. I will remind everyone a really important piece for you to remember. Middlesex is part of a public higher education system in the state of Massachusetts, which happens to be a predominantly blue state. We respond to the Secretary of Education, who oversees the Commissioner of Higher Education, that's Noe Ortega. So policies and practices come from those individuals, and they get their directives from Governor Maura Healey, who is currently the governor of the state and who has been very clear about her position on a number of areas that will be impacting higher education. So I just want you to be aware that as this unfolds, we have been through this process before with changes in federal government. We've been through this process before in changes in state government, and we are paying attention and making moderations and changes as we have to each day to really respond. And I'll follow up with what we learn if I'm able to jump back in after our meeting with Secretary Tutwiler and Commissioner Ortega. The second piece is that we have, as a group of presidents, met last Friday to talk about a series of community college budget priorities for Massachusetts for next year. I want to lay those out for you so you have a sense of them, and we will be able to get a document to you as soon as we have the first draft, but certainly free community college is at the top of that. We'll be asking for over $96 million for Mass Educate. We will be asking for another over almost $25 million for Mass Reconnect. And another $10 million for short-term workforce training. Those are going to be at the top of our priority list to make sure that we are able to respond to the needs of our students and the incredible financing and support that we've received from the state. We are also going to be asking for an expansion in the Success Fund to $21 million for all of the 15 community colleges in the state of Massachusetts as an access strategy, but a way to assist our most vulnerable students with completion. The Supporting Urgent Community College Equity through Student Services Fund has been instrumental in the work that we've done with students and will continue to be as we implement Mass Educate and Mass Reconnect and any short-term training. We are also putting high on our priority list community college faculty and staff compensation. As our enrollment continues to increase, thanks to the investments in free community college, we know that we are struggling to recruit, hire, and retain the incredible staff that work here every day with our students. And we as presidents are stepping up to talk about the fact that community college faculty and staff compensation is a critical issue in the state of Massachusetts if we are to continue to do the exceptional work that we're doing. And that is priority on the first page of priorities that we've been working with. There's a community college operating line that's clearly what we get for our own operating budget, and also part of the funding formula where we are asking for, in that funding formula, another $12 million to be able to respond to when we are successful as an institution in closing opportunity grants and being able to take care of what we need to do for all of our students in anticipating. The current formula has been really small, but we are asking for an increase of 3% of the base appropriations. So that brings us to the $12 million amount for all community colleges. We're also, and I'll talk about this in a second, asking for another $125 million in community college capital needs, and that's tied to the BRIGHT Act, which I will explain, as I said, in a moment. I'll jump to the fact that early college and dual enrollment is still an incredibly important part of what we are asking for in this budget, and we work with the Alliance for Early College to really identify what the target is for that increase. We're going to be, again, asking for early childhood education and care provider opportunities to the tune of $10 million to support the work that we do with our early childhood education efforts in our certificate and our associate's degree program. We are asking for community college workforce training incentive fund grants to the tune of about $2 million to be able to continue to meet the non-credit needs of our students. And this in no way comes near what we need, so there will be additional asks in supplemental budgets in the future. Of course, the continuation of the STEM Starter Academy at $4.75 million and the higher education collaboration and efficiency work for $300,000, and that's been put in there to really continue the work that we've done around cybersecurity and some shared responsibilities among the 15 community colleges. As I said, this is a first draft. We're looking at a 3% increase in a number of these line items, but rest assured we'll continue to keep you updated about what's happening with legislative priorities and the funding priorities for the budget. The last that I'm going to mention, which is great news and was down with the governor and the lieutenant governor and all of the other folks from the other institutions. Beth, you can pop back to that slide if you would, is the BRIGHT Act. And this is a real opportunity for the state to really respond to one of the challenges that we've had, which is deferred maintenance. That the commissioner has made a commitment to strengthening public higher education in Massachusetts through the FY26 state budget include the BRIGHT Act, and that BRIGHT Act includes an opportunity to allocate $125 million of fair share, or perhaps you might call it the millionaire's tax, fair share revenues to leverage an estimated $2.5 billion in new borrowing capacity for higher education infrastructure needs over the next 10 years. So this is a more thoughtful and intentional long-term investment in new buildings, renovations to building, deferred maintenance, and all of what you've seen in our master facilities plan. And in the documents that you have here, you'll not only have an opportunity to see the entire working group and what they did, but also the final act that the governor has put together in this very unique and interesting bond bill approach. And the other piece of that is it also will give you a list of the capital investments that we have requested for the institution. So those are the priorities from a federal and state perspective that I'm going to share with you. Judy Burke is not able to be with us today, so I want to tell you a little bit about the things that are happening in institutional advancement, because there's amazing work that's being done there, and we'll run through those slides if we would, Beth. First and foremost, the college advancement team is working with a consultant to conduct a feasibility study for the health and life sciences initiatives. So we are trying to make sure that we have the dollars we need to continue to update equipment in key high demand areas, and we're exploring that with a number of donors. And that feasibility study will be at its first stages with a lot of really great input from our donors and people who talk about how much they feel the institution is committing to the community. So we're excited about that. There'll be mini grant awards that have continued. So the faculty and staff submitted 27 applications, 19 were awarded with a total funding, and this is more funding than ever before, of $70,000. And those grants will be realized by faculty and staff in the spring of 2025. There'll be a tax receipt mailing for those of you who have been donors and given over $50 to the MCC Foundation, so that you have that for the 2024 annual calendar year. And you're also going to have and receive an annual report of giving. There's data that's been compiled that's mailed to donors for the first week of March. The corporate education and training updates, which is the next slide, is just some really great work that we've had with the Mass Life Sciences Center. We continue to receive significant funding for advanced manufacturing with robotics program. They've done a cohort of 30, and 3 cohorts are finishing up by June 2025. This is work that we're doing with Mass Hire and Insulet Corporation. So we're really excited about the Pathmaker grant, because it's not only helped us get those students through that non-credit training and into a job at Insulet, but it's also helped us really renovate our facility in Henderson Hall, where we'll see the beginnings of our new robotics program. I also want to mention the Workforce Capital Grant. So that includes the additional dollars that we've received for the robotics lab in Henderson Hall and new robotics equipment. So we're talking millions of dollars between the training and the equipment that we receive from the Mass Life Sciences, who continue to be our friend, and we're so instrumental in what we've done with biotech before. We are figuring out how we can continue to do the work of non-credit through the TRAIN grant, specifically for advanced manufacturing, that will be submitted in February. And of course, we continue to work on training grants with a number of local training fund areas that are really important, including Analog Devices at Boston Centerless. Community education and training updates is that there's going to be a new spring catalog coming out with a lot of expanded career and workforce training, personal enrichment, and programs for young people. Some new things that are coming up is a phlebotomy certificate, TIA Security Plus Prep for composition, and the project management boot camp and medical officer administrator. College for Kids, they've got registration that starts in February. We've got 8 new programs there, and that will be starting in our Bedford campus, of course, but lots of events for the summer for kids. Digital badging is continuing, as we have done with our micro-credentials in academic affairs. So has happened with our digital badging for non-credit certificate programs, and our non-credit health graduation recognition ceremony that's going to happen on May 5th. So an opportunity for us to really recognize those folks who are a nursing assistant, pharm tech, phlebotomy, medical interpreting, medical office administration, and local anesthesia over the last couple of years who have been in non-credit programs, to do for the first time a real expansive recognition ceremony for their completion. On the next slide, I just want to say that the continuing excellent work of the Adult Learning Center and Links continues. They are over-enrolled this spring, as is always the case. There are 25 new Links students this semester. It's actually the largest group that we've ever had. And the grant actually only covers about 15 new students. So we've been really excited about that expansion. The Adult Learning Center has 120 students enrolled, with another wait list of 100 students. So the work that goes on in our Adult Learning Center and the LEAGS program continues to serve the community in a lot of the work that we need to do to prepare students to go on into the workforce or to enter the institution in credit programs. At this point, I'm going to turn this over to Allie to do the work on finance and give you some updates. And I will pop back in after I get done with my 2:30 to 3:30 meeting. So thank you, Beth, for driving the slides. And Allie, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I am is everybody, can you see my slides? Yes, okay. It's nice seeing everyone. Happy New Year. I'm just trying to put this in presentation view. My apologies. I'm just going to go through a couple things. I do also have to head out after this meeting. I have presentation to the finance subcommittee and the board right after this, but just wanted to go through a couple high-level items that we've been working through. First is the board designated financial investments. So at the end of every audit year, with any money that we might have left over, we asked the board to designate some of the funds for certain initiatives. And so there were three that I want to bring attention to. Is the board designated at the end of, I guess in October, when the audit was presented, $2 million for decarbonization. Specifically, so there's a state executive orders, a decarb plan for 2050, but there's also executive orders more recent to focus on electrifying vehicle fleets. And so the board had designated $2 million for this initiative. And so you may have noticed that there were surveys done on interest and usage needs for electric charging stations. This was done through the Sustainability Committee, and also through SLC. We're working on some of these initiatives as well. So we are currently working with National Grid to kind of develop a roadmap to electrify our fleet and to also put charging stations on campus. So that is how those $2 million will be allocated. There's $3 million set up for feasibility studies. Phil had alluded to the BRIGHT Act at just a slide or two ago, but we're really trying to align our master plan and our facility needs, and also to have shovel-ready projects for this BRIGHT Act. So when that legislation hopefully passes, we have studies that have already been done for some major projects, so we can get moving on some of these projects sooner than later. And so feasibility studies take a lot of time and a lot of capital to kind of complete. And so that is what the $3 million was allocated for. And then lastly, as we've alluded to on this call many times, there is a team that is focused, and we're all part of it, in bringing our strategic plan to life. Historically, the first year we allocated $1 million of funds to it. Second year there was an allocation of $1.5 million of funds to make it come to life. And this year the board voted on adding another $500,000 to that to make it a $2 million designation in fiscal 25 for strategic plan initiatives. So exciting projects in the pipeline dedicated to certain efforts. Second thing I wanted to focus on today is what Mass Reconnect and Mass Educate has meant for our financials. A lot of people have tried to ask me about how the funding works. I just want you to know that these slides are changing without my touching them. So I apologizing for the flip-flopping, and I'm giving it a heads up to anybody that's presenting after me. So I just wanted to show everybody in this slide what the impact, if nothing else changed and just these programs, this legislation passed, I wanted to show you what the financial looks like. So if you look on the left-hand column, this was before Mass Reconnect or Mass Educate was passed into law. And you can see you have tuition and fees of $140,000, school allowances. That's like a direct deduction to our students' tuition bills, and you get a net tuition of $130,000. And then you see our state appropriation there, a line that holds all of our federal, state, local grants, monies and contracts, other auxiliary enterprises. So if you think about like bookstore commissions, things of that nature, and then other operating revenues. So before these programs came into play, you see that's how we arrived at $200,000 of revenue. These are complete ambiguous numbers. They don't tie to anything. Then Mass Reconnect passed. And what that said is if you were a Massachusetts resident over 25 of age and there were other parameters, then you could potentially qualify for free community college. And so what that did is that increased the school allowances, or it's a direct deduction, so it looks like a decrease, but you can see that funding came from the federal, state, local contract line. So our net tuition decreased by $10,000, we'll call it, but you can see our federal, state, and local grants would have increased by the funding we received from the state to do so. And at the end of the day, you see our total revenue still equals $200,000. Then Mass Educate passed. And so that made free community college for Massachusetts residents for all, not just with that specific age group. And so all that does is that increases the school allowances again, because it's a direct deduction to our students' bills, and we get that federal or that state money in the same amount of the 60,000. And so again, you can see our net tuition is decreasing, but our state funding is increasing. So the bottom line, all things stay the same, is that 200,000. So I just wanted to give everybody a high level purview of how that worked, because I have received a lot of questions on it. And people, there's been a bit of panic of, oh, we're losing that net tuition number. And while that number is decreasing because of those allowances, our state funding is increasing to match that decrease. So it is a net zero effect, assuming nothing changes. But these programs obviously have driven up our head count and our enrollment numbers up. And so what that means is, what I wanted to show you on this graph is that top blue line that you see in front of you, that represents our total revenues, right? So you can see that 90 million number in the far right, where the fiscal 25 budget is. The yellow represents our net tuition. So what you're going to see here is, you can see it's kind of a steady amount, and then in the last 2 years, that yellow line has decreased in size. That's because our net tuition is decreasing, but that is countered by the green coloring that you're looking there, which is all of our federal, state, and contract revenue. So you can see in the last 2 years, that wedge of the pie chart has increased. And then lastly, what you see on this chart is a steady increase, slow and steady, but that is our state appropriation. That is in front of you in that coral pink color. And then that little sliver at the bottom of the orange, those are our other revenues. But I just wanted to kind of give you a visual representation of the steady growth of revenues, especially in the last 3 years after, COVID, which is a great sign, and just how the funding sources are changing. It's on a positive trend. And so I just wanted to share that slide with everyone to kind of give you a high level view of how the revenues are being received here at Middlesex Community College and all the other community colleges for that matter. And with that being said, I wanted to talk about budget. So the fiscal 26 budget season is amongst us, but before we think about fiscal 26, I still want you to think about fiscal 25. Sorry, I'm going to share my screen this way because it's clicking away from me. As you can see, we have had increased revenues because of Mass Reconnect and because of Mass Educate. And so if there are any requests that you have for fiscal 25, so that's this current fiscal year, please communicate to your chairs, your deans, your cost center managers, whomever is closest to the budget in your area. If you have additional needs for fiscal 25, please communicate it to them. You can come directly to myself, Sherry Goldman, or Jackson. We are happy to work with you to figure out the rest of your fiscal 25 if you find yourself in any sort of budget deficit, or if you have a purchase that is kind of more of a want than a need. And then we're into fiscal 26 budget season. So what are we doing now? We have been talking endlessly about what these programs that I just talked about, Mass Educate and Mass Reconnect, are doing to our budget. Right now, we're looking at a 14% increase from this year to where we think we're going to end this fiscal year. And now we have to figure out what we think it will do for fiscal 26. And once we know that, we basically develop all of our revenue assumptions, and we just talked about revenues a little bit. And with that number, I'm able to go back with my team, and what we do is we create baseline budgets. A baseline budget is a budget that is based on the spend in your index, your cost center area. We look back for 5 years. We look for trends. We try to add to the baseline budget any CBA type agreements of COLA increases. We incorporate fringe increases to the best of our ability. And then we create what we call a fiscal 26 baseline budget. And those budgets are distributed to all the cost center managers across the college with saying, this is what we think you will need for fiscal 26, but I don't know everything that's going on in your department. So please review this. If you have any additional requests, add them to this budget, send it back. If you want to have a meeting with us, let's sit down, talk about a meeting. We encourage everybody and anyone that wants to talk about the budget and some of the assumptions that were made to sit with myself and the team to go through it. And then we take everybody's baseline budgets with additional requests back, and we try to honor as many needs, requests as possible. And we revamp the budget. And that budget, I make sure that it's balanced and it's attainable. That will then go to PLC. We will sit down, we will talk through it. We talk a lot about positions. And then once we finalize that in PLC, that is when it would go to the board for a vote. Those two things happen in the April timeframe, and assuming the budget gets voted on, it would be loaded up in June, July. So that is the process we go through. It is indeed a 6-7 month process. And I will only say with the disclosure that, as Phil alluded to, and as we talk about these programs, Mass Reconnect, Mass Educate, the fiscal landscape has changed immensely in just the 2.5 years that I've been here. And so we are working really hard to kind of hit the nail on the head as best we can. But, you know, when we see these executive orders come in overnight, I mean, the last 6 days have changed what the financials could look like. So this is our plan. This is what we're working towards. We will be working with the enrollment group in IR. I think we have a meeting this week to start talking about enrollment next year, and then that will trigger the rest of the process. So that is what I have to present today. I don't think I will be around to stick around through the end of the meeting, but if there are any questions that come in the finance way, Beth, if you can send them to me, or you can just email me directly, and I'm happy to answer any questions that come out of this meeting. I thank you all for your time. It's all for me.
Will do. Thank you, Allie. All right. Before we move to Provost Rodriguez, I just want to ask the folks, if you did come into this meeting via a phone number, if you have the ability to change your phone number to your name, that would be ideal. All right. Arlene, take it away.
Thank you so much, Beth. Give me a few seconds to click here. Oh, and the presentation view is not the way I wanted, so maybe we could do it this way. All right, there we go. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm having what Allie had, so we all have our settings on something awkward. Anyway, always good to be supported and follow a very positive budget report. I'm very excited about that, because part of what I'm going to talk a little bit about is how we have been able to do new hires. But before we do that, I just want to share with everyone a couple of things. One is Michaela will be talking about FERPA, as Phil has noted. There's some things we're educating ourselves on in order to make sure that we are protecting our students. And I look forward to additional workshops on FERPA that Kayla will be doing. I also want to point out that we are looking at workshops by the Massachusetts Immigration and Refugee Advocacy Group to educate us on the needs and protecting how we can protect our students best. I want to give a special shout out to Jordana Shaw and Jamie March, who have been placing these red cards everywhere, and I appreciate that. These are for students so they can educate themselves on what their rights are during this time. So we will be continuing that conversation. And just again, thank you to all of you who've been supporting this work. I want to share with you, when you have a good budget, you're able to hire new people, and I'm thankful that we can announce to you that we have a new Assistant Dean of Advising and Pathways, Erica Corona, and that we welcome in additional faculty members. Deepti Marate from Behavioral Science and Psychology started her first semester this spring. And nursing, we have 2 new nursing faculty, Heather McLeod and Brianne Woodworth. So very excited, and please welcome these individuals to our Middlesex community, and very thankful that they have joined us this spring semester. We also are looking at new apprenticeships and new and proposed programs. As many of you may remember, we received a Smith Foundation grant last year that allows us to start developing apprenticeship grants. These are grants that many of them will be taught on site, and will provide, especially our adult learners, a pathway to an associate's, and in many cases, a pathway to a bachelor's degree. In the fall of 25, elementary education will be beginning its apprenticeship degree program. Special shout out to Dean Ross Olwell and to a department chair, Michelle, for all the work that they have done to get that going. Not always easy to have those conversations. And I also want to give a special shout out to Dean Townsend and Mary Jenny. Dental assisting will be beginning as an apprenticeship program in the summer of 2025. Again, these give some incumbent workers, some new adult learners, the opportunity to a pathway to a degree program and a pathway into the workforce. I will also want to say congrats to nursing, Sue, the nursing team, and Karen. Our goal is to begin our practical nursing program in the fall of 25. Hiring has presented some challenges, but we have had a wonderful conversation with our HR department, and we'll continue to make sure we recruit the best faculty for this important program. And special thanks to Maria and the STEM division. We have a draft of a letter of intent that we plan to share with DHE for a new associate's in science degree on robotics. Marie has shared with us a draft. We are reviewing it. It will go to DHE. There are several stages, you may not remember, from our practical nursing program. It'll be sent out to the 29 public institutions for any feedback. Our proposal will be sent out for any feedback. And then eventually it will go to the Board of Higher Education for approval. So right now we're in the letter of intent stage, so it's early on, but I'm very thankful to all of you who were engaged in getting us to this point. I think it's a wonderful addition to our STEM program lineups. Here we go. Just some reminders, chairs and coordinators tomorrow in Bedford. We will send out the meeting. There is a Zoom option that we will send out. Forgive us, we're running a little behind with things, but that will be coming out today. And on February 10th, we're going to have our RISE 15 Data Summit, faculty and staff. If you remember last summer and fall that we were able to begin these data summits, where you look at 15 particular metrics, but we also profile a special program that's putting our metrics forward. So we're going to be doing that February 10th in Bedford. Here's my goal. Last year we did separate sessions each for faculty and staff. My goal here is that we have faculty and staff together. I think the conversations were incredibly rich separate. I want to see how we are able to engage in conversations together. It's a bit of a dream because I know that's a lot of people in one space at one time, but we will make sure to forward any meeting notes to those who are not able to make it. Thank you to those who submitted nominations for emeritus status. We have 19 individuals who we're going to review in a meeting this Friday. Thank you for your letters. Thank you so much for all the work that you did to make sure that our colleagues who have retired are recognized. We have our plan for the next critical conversation is February 18th, 2 to 4. Messages and emails will be sent out around that. That's going to be about NECHI. I know it's been a while since you've heard me say NECHI, so I'm going to say it several times just on this slide. Our NECHI report did arrive. Matthew Olson, Linda Darkathius, Phil, and myself have reviewed the report, and we have drafted a response to that report that we have uploaded to our NECHI portal. That is the next to last step before, if you go down to the third bullet there, Phil and I will attend the NECHI Commission meeting on March 6th, where we anticipate being approved for the next 10 years. But we will be focusing on critical conversation on the 18th on our NECHI report. Phil and his office will be distributing the report this week to give you a chance to look at it's the site team visits report. So it's not the full 200+ page document that all of you created. It is the site team's visit, comments on the visit. So please keep an eye out for that and reserve critical conversation for that discussion. Professional Day is February 28th, so please remember that's when we will acknowledge and really honor our emeritus, but we have some valuable sessions there on technology, on Blackboard Ultra, and on other technologies. We are moving very quickly on some of the things that are available to help support our faculty and staff, and I'm thankful to Peter and his team for developing a day where we could spend some time and get caught up. NETCHI Commission again, March 6th. Phil and I will be there to answer any questions and to celebrate the renewal of our accreditation. And something new that we're doing this year is a sort of celebration for early college dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment students. And we plan to do that May 21st. We haven't mapped out anything, but I want to make sure you save the date. And our goal here is to really start engaging and celebrating and honoring those who are of our students who are enrolled in that programming. I am pleased to welcome as our next speaker, Kayla Karen. Thank you so much, Beth. Kayla Karen, who will be talking about FERPA. As Phil has noted, there have been a lot of changes within the last couple of weeks, and we have been as a team working very hard. I just want to share personally, I'm very thankful to be working with a leadership team that meets regularly, not on the books all the time, and many times we're just running to the President's Conference Room to stay up to date with the many changes that have been happening on the federal level, and making sure that our response protects our students and make sure that any action that we take is focusing on protecting our students. And one of those actions is kind of familiarizing yourselves, all of us, with FERPA. And Kayla is going to talk a little bit about it. The red card that I always talk about, and that Jordana and Jamie have ordered many hundreds of copies, really is helping students educate themselves on what are their own rights, especially our immigrant students and our refugee and undocumented students. FERPA is how do we educate or re-educate ourselves to make sure we're doing the right thing. So I'm going to let Kayla speak. And thank you so much, Kayla. I know that in the past few 1 hour, 60 minutes, that you have been making changes, and really your leadership is very, very welcomed on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arlene. One moment, Kayla, let me pull up your slides for you. Okay, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So in response to concerned MCC community members that are worried about the impact of changes to federal immigration policies and enforcement of priorities with regard to our students' records and data, this is just a quick refresher and a breakdown of action steps that you can take just to have in your back pocket should immigration officers come to campus requesting student data or protected student data covered by FERPA. Next slide, please. So as a refresher, FERPA is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and it affords certain rights to students concerning their educational records. Students are informed of their rights under the FERPA Act via the student handbook and the academic catalog. We also send email reminders each year. So I'm going to start with the two types of information that we have. Thank you, Beth. So when talking about student information, we really want to focus on the two types that we have. We have directory information and non-directory information. So the definition of directory information can vary a bit from each college, but at MCC, directory information is defined as the name, address, date of enrollment, date of graduation, degree received, their major, student's date of birth, participation in activities and sports, weight, height of athletic team members, and college honors like the Dean's List or the Merits List. So our definition of directory information can be found in the catalog. And anyone can request this. So they would simply submit a request in writing, and we would have a period of time to respond as an institution. So the non-directory information, that's the protected information that's covered by FERPA. So we can't release this information unless there are specific circumstances, like, for instance, a court-ordered subpoena, or the student has signed a release releasing that information. So non-directory information are things like grades, emergency contact information, a student's class schedule. So we have the FERPA release form in our office available that students can fill out. Faculty will be familiar with this because they always call and confirm that we have it if they have a sensitive conversation to talk about to see if they have a release for it. And the FERPA release in most cases is giving permission to one individual to speak to another individual about protected information like grades or attendance. Next slide, please. So in reference to FERPA, just a few things I want you to keep in mind. Student requests for information for students, records of non-protected or directory information come in almost daily. They come in through the appropriate channels and we respond to them. I would say weekly we get directory requests for information. And the next big point that I want to hammer in before we go into the actual steps of what I want you to do is that you should never feel forced or compelled on the spot to release information if you feel unsure about what you're releasing. And this doesn't just go for immigration officers. FERPA specifically covers what we can release. It doesn't mandate what you have to do and what you have to release. And it certainly doesn't mandate you to stop what you're doing in this minute and pull records and give information on the spot. So information really mistakes happen when individuals don't have time to stop and think and react. So just keep that in your mind. FERPA is there to protect you as much as it is to protect the student record. So working with federal officers or any agent, I can tell you, and anybody here who's worked with them, coming in to get information can be really intimidating. They often quickly flash their badge. They command an intimidating presence. So please take the time to slow down. Remember that you have steps to follow, and print the slides out once these go up, or whatever you need to kind of follow these steps. You absolutely, in whatever role you're on, have the right to understand who's coming into your office and what they're requesting. And you have the right to tell them that you're not the authorized individual to provide that information. Thank you, Beth. Okay, so what's at risk? So failing to uphold FERPA can result in significant consequences for educational institutions, including the potential loss of federal funding, including federal aid, legal action, reputational damage, and disciplinary actions against employees who violate FERPA. Next slide, please. So these are the steps that I really wanted to focus on. Oh, can you go back one slide, Beth?
I think one of the things, Kayla, is Patrick's going to be focusing on that.
Oh, okay. Thank
So
you.
thank you. Sorry about that. We've been, last 60 minutes, like last 15 minutes, we've been changing things. Apologies.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to point out some additional resources for FERPA for you. So the Department of Education offers various resources, clickable videos. They're not school specific, but they're very broad, very helpful. They can help you determine actions you can take, trainings you can take to really brush up on those skills. ACRO, the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, again, have all sorts of trainings and videos available, as well as flyers that can help depending on what specific area you work in. And then Massachusetts has their own FERPA resources that can help you brush up on Massachusetts specific regulations around records. Happy to answer any questions. I do have a couple trainings coming up. I have a training on at Professional Day. I'll do a FERPA presentation, and then on March 5th, I'll also be scheduling a FERPA presentation that folks can join.
Thank you so much, Kayla.
Thank you, Kayla. All right, we are going to turn it over to Pat Cook, VP of Administration. And Pat, I'll let you start with introductions while I pull up your slides.
Great. Thanks for that, Beth. And thanks everybody for being so flexible here as we, like we said, these things are changing by the hour on us. What we do want to just reinforce for everybody is that regardless of who's getting what on which emails or what slide decks you're seeing here and there, we are getting constant information pouring into us from our partners at the state level, but also on the federal level. While we're on this call right now, actually, as Kayla was speaking, we just got a direct contact from Congresswoman Trahan's office, just trying to offer us some support and some guidance in terms of what is happening on the federal side of things. But it is a constantly moving target. But what we're working very closely with Kayla, who has been just a tremendous asset for the college as far as the information goes. But we want to reinforce because there has been a series of directives that have been issued by the Massachusetts Attorney General in the last, I'll say a week, but there have been almost twice daily updates coming from the AG's office regarding what we need to know here on campus. So as I'm going to go through some of these slides, what I just also want to reinforce, because this is critically important, and you'll see it at the last bullet item on these slides, is that we have had, and this goes back, heck, even more than a decade, we have had protocols in place on what does happen when individuals come to our campus looking for information and how they should be processed and who is able to provide them with information. And we just want to reinforce for everybody that those guardrails are still in place. But because of what's been happening in the past 10 days, if you will, especially with the Attorney General's orders, Dan Martin on the public safety side and Leonard from the Dean of Students office have been going over these protocols, making sure that all of our individuals who could be the choke points for this kind of information understand exactly what is at risk here and what we need to follow for protocols. And Kayla's been doing it with the student information staff on both campuses here on the third floor in Lowell, but also down in the enrollment center down in Bedford. And I say this because just as evidence, we did have a standard run-of-the-mill inquiry came through yesterday, and it was processed by an employee correctly. The right things were followed through, but because of the heightened anxiety about what's happening in the country and on these fronts, particularly when you hear about some of the things happening in whether it's Chicago schools or other locations, people could be on edge. So we want to just reinforce, and we will make the slide deck available to all, but there's some bullet items here to make sure that whoever's at those intake points, for the most part, our folks, I can tell you all the folks in Lowell at the entry points for the buildings have been directly trained on this matter, and they all have the memorandum from the Attorney General's office. And we are, because of what's happening with the rapidity of this thing, we are working on some new on refining some of the protocols for the Bedford campus, which is a bit more sprawling. But if it is an immigration officer that's coming to our front desk or any of the entry points, we got to obviously just make sure that we're asking not just for name, but identification number and some proof of identification that they are with the agency that they're claiming to be with when they come into our buildings. We need to ask for any judicial warrants or court orders that he or she may have with them, because without those warrants signed by a judicial official, the officers can't compel somebody at our institution to comply with the request. And this is important, which might sound distressing to some, but we just have to make sure that the officers who may be looking for information understand that we're not obstructing their attempts to access that information, but that we are going to respond to their request in a timely fashion. However, it's got to be done through the appropriate channels. And that, this is what we've had in place, seriously, for a very long time here. We're not going to change the way we're doing it. We're certainly not going to go into a siege mentality here or panic, but we want to make sure that the same protocols we have followed all along continue to be followed moving forward. So, what's happening, and is a case of what happened yesterday in Bedford, we're just asking the individuals looking for the information. Yesterday was not an immigration office. It was a standard background check, which happens pretty frequently, to just wait until we can get in contact with somebody to help triage the call. In yesterday's case, actually, because this feels so volatile right now, our legal counsel, Jeannie Arbro, and one of her assistant legal counsels came over to the enrollment center to make sure that there was nothing amiss here. And again, kudos to the staff member who did exactly what needed to be done with an inquiry, which really was just a standard background check like we received, like Kayla said, quite frequently. But what we are going to do is to ask, especially in Bedford, if there is somebody, because we have the 10 different buildings down there, if somebody does come in looking for these records, we're asking them to just first to ask the individuals to report to the security desk in the lobby of the Cataldo Administration Building, Building 10, because they're going to get the visitor's pass and the required to sign in on logs. So we're able to document any and all of these requests that are coming through, as also to verify their proof of identification. In Lowell, we have it already at the entryways for our specific buildings. But, we do get, as Kayla referenced, we get these requests constantly. There are some that came in even yesterday just for lists that we provide information out. They come through my office by way of a public records request. Sometimes Russ will get them through the Dean of Students office. Kayla gets them constantly through the registrar's office. And Dan Martin and folks get them sometimes right at the public safety entry points. So we just want to make sure that, anybody that's getting these potential inquiries or having to deal with somebody face to face, just reach out to one of us immediately. We'll send somebody to the scene to help assist with triaging the call as it's live time. But a couple of things to stress over and over every time we talk about this. A, we don't want folks panicking. We don't want people to just go into unnecessarily to worry themselves that they're doing something right or wrong. Bring in somebody who can assist them with this, but also emphasize there is no requirement for us to produce this information or anybody directly on demand by somebody standing at the front desk, regardless of whether or not they're brandishing a badge or they've got a uniform on. There is a process here, and we will continue to follow it to protect our students and staff and faculty as well. So that's kind of just a quick update where things are, because that is definitely a very fluid topic right now. And I know at the end, we're going to field some questions. So if there's anybody that does want to check in on that front, please let us know. But also just to reinforce what Arlene said, because we have been training all of our front desk personnel on this as well. Thank you to Jordana. I don't know where she went. She was on my screen, but moved. But the red cards that you've heard about, we've ordered extra ones through her, and Jamie and folks who SATE have been helping us to make sure that those are up at all of our intake points. Again, that's primarily for activities off campus, but the information that's contained with it is still valuable enough for everybody to refresh themselves. So if you have students who have contact you directly because they've got concerns, please make sure they grab a copy of one of these red cards. All right. So with that, we've also just, as folks know, because there has been a number of people on this call who've been inconvenienced or will continue to be inconvenienced throughout the course of the semester. There has been a dramatic amount of physical changes that are happening on our campus. Allie referenced a lot of it that is time sensitive, because we've been fortunate enough to be in a place to get access to some state monies, which are supporting us on this front. So because of that, we're fast tracking a good number of these projects and trying to shuttle some of these things through the study and design phases to get us to a point where we're going to be considered, quote unquote, shovel ready to do some of these projects. But first of all, a big round of applause on the call. If you can, I don't know if you're able to do your emojis to cheer for the folks in dental hygiene who have been, even through their accreditation cycle of the fall, spent their fall cycle over in the Pollard building, but have now, I believe, Karen, if Karen's on the call, she can thumbs up it, but within the last week, I think everybody's been relocated to their new spaces up on Talbot 3. Which are some offices that were created from scratch in some old storage, and the old simulation labs that are up on the 3rd floor of Talbot. So there's a whole bank of new offices up there. I'll tell you, I'm very jealous. I've been in to check some of them. Many of them have just this gorgeous, whether it's window views or the brick backgrounds or the historic columns coming down. So Christine and folks who are on this call, congrats to you. I think is there another slide here with the Talbot? Yeah. With some of the changes happening in Talbot. So congrats to all the dental hygiene folks. It's first class space that's been long overdue. And I think the last slide for Talbot might even have the work. Nope. Okay, never mind. So there is work underway that the classroom that's behind the offices on the 3rd floor is also been refurbished. So I think it's right next to Sue McHale's office now, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's classroom 301. So that is coming back online. IT is working to get that back on as a high flex classroom. But congrats to all the folks in dental hygiene, and thanks for toughing it out through fall semester in less than optimal digs over in the Pollard building, but you made do, and you not only did you make do, you got us glowing passing grades on our accreditation at the same time. So congrats to you folks. The next one, though, is what's impacting a good number of people down on the Bedford campus. The biotech work is progressing up on the 3rd floor at Henderson Hall. You're hearing the noise daily. You're feeling the temperature changes in the building. It is underway. It's still on track to be completed, throughout the course of this spring semester. But we do know that it's causing dramatic inconveniences to anybody who calls Henderson Hall home for several fronts, because of, like I said, the noise as well as the constant activity that's happening up on 3. But thank you also to Marie and Avetta and everybody from your shop who has been doing these weekly check-ins, or sometimes bi-weekly check-ins on these calls to keep things on track. There is a lot happening there all at once. And I think if there's another slide, Beth, okay, that's just a continuation of the work upstairs. There's back up. Don't get to the food yet. Oh my God. So then the other part of it is was Chris Algara and his program, the engineering department, moving over to the ground floor at Henderson, as well as the work that's happening with creating our own robotics lab down on Henderson 1, working with Chris as well as the folks from corporate and community ed who are going to be expanding the robotics lab opportunity we're going to be having after the spring semester and moving forward. So thank you to all of you. And then what might be the most exciting or potentially controversial news of the whole critical conversation. Cue it up, Beth. Woohoo. Okay, so folks know, because they've been hearing in different snippets, that we have chosen a new food vendor who has been, this is a more than an 8-month process at working with these folks to get them on board. We're going with Genuine Foods, who are going to be opening up the serveries on both of our campuses again for our student, staff, and faculty. We do know the inconvenience it has caused, especially in the Bedford side where there's not much other action happening. And we do apologize that by way of things that are completely out of our control, mostly at the town administrative level, to get that up and ready. We had intended it for a January 21st launch. Through a series of complications outside the college, that's not able to happen. What they are going to be doing, and Beth, do you have it queued up with the new logo yet, or is that we've got as of next Monday through Thursday, that should be on that one. Monday through Thursday of next week, the Lowell cafeteria server is going to be opening from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are still working diligently to try to get the town of Bedford to allow us to get the Bedford side open as well for the same hours of operations. And our new partner at Genuine has agreed they're going to be calling each of our cafeterias the Owl Cafe on both campuses. So we're going to marry that slightly to the college mascot, Swoops, but you'll be seeing some signage and some advertising going up this week regard to that, as well as a posting of the menus of what the offering is going to be from week to week. Genuine's going to be a great partner. I know they just did a meeting with all the admin folks and a number of other people to talk about some catering options moving forward, but we do understand how painful this process has been, especially on the Bedford side. I can only assure you that there are a number of people on this call and beyond that have been doing their best to try to get things queued up on our schedule, and we can only do what was within our power to control. So we are still asking them to get Bedford queued up as quickly as possible for us. And I guarantee you that we will make sure that the announcements are out there as well as the full provision of menus. And as we said on every other call, we just hope that people will continue to support the new vendor when they're on board, because they will be here for some time, and they are definitely a working partner who are looking to help us on several fronts. So that's it from this side of the house for right now, I think.
Great. Thank you, Pat. Mary, I believe you are up next with the human resources update, if you are ready.
Great, thank you, Beth. Are you going to pull up the slides?
I certainly can.
I know Provost Rodriguez shared our professional day, but just because it is a month away and the time is flying by, I'm going to just reiterate and emphasize please save that date for our Spring Professional Development Day, Friday, February 28th on the Bedford campus. It will be another great day for coming together to learn. More details will be forthcoming from Peter Shea and the Office of Professional Development. Thank you in advance to all that volunteer to present, as the theme of the day focuses on technology. Also, stay tuned for the kickoff of next month's Wellness Challenge focused on screen time. Thank you to all that have participated in our monthly wellness challenges focused on our well-being to help us all be more mindful. Thank you to Lauren Hutchinson for coordinating these challenges for the college. And it will be the challenge of screen time challenge. It's going to help us kind of disconnect from our devices and really focus on our well-being. The salary increases for eligible employees have been processed with new rates in Friday's paycheck. Thank you to Kathy DiRanzo and the payroll team for processing these adjustments, and Barbara Malabecki for sharing these updates with our employees. I also want to call your attention to the Title IX on the 9th series that provides training on Title IX, the federal rights, civil rights law that prohibits discrimination. Thank you to Pamela Medina, the college's Title IX coordinator, affirmative action officer, for coordinating this series to provide helpful resources and training to all college employees to help foster an equitable and safe environment for everyone. Next slide, please. I also wanted to share some data regarding the hiring activity at MCC for fiscal year 25. So far this fiscal year, we've posted 60 positions at the college for AFSCME, MCCC faculty and staff, and NUP positions. Overall, you'll see a total of 8 positions for AFSCME, 17 for MCCC, 6 non-unit professional positions, 19 part-time positions, as well as 10 student positions. So in summary, the college has filled 55% of posted positions, with 45% in progress to be filled in fiscal year 25. And as Allie shared, the upcoming budget process and really, working with your work areas and departments to really identify what needs you'll have in the next fiscal year as well. So I want to extend thanks to Jake Donovan for supporting our hiring managers and candidates and welcoming talent to their new, welcoming all our talent to their new roles at the college. Next slide. Great. Thank you. I also want to share our headcount data from the last 5 years. This data provides a helpful snapshot of all our benefited and non-benefited headcount. This data is based on our IPEDS reporting, but please note that our headcount is evergreen. There's ongoing hiring activity and workforce changes day in, day out. But you will notice a trend that we are starting to see the rebuild, what in previous years has been more challenging times. So we see the impact of the growth and increase in our enrollment and our ability to really kind of stabilize as a workforce at the college. Next slide, please. I also want to put a plug in for our published HR Happenings newsletter, which has been launched since September of 2022. It is a great resource for all employees. It highlights important information and resources, sharing information about our new hires, current job openings, announcements, and employee engagement opportunities. So again, just a great reference for all faculty and staff. Next slide. And I also want to call your attention to an email from the Office of HR. It was sent on Monday to share helpful, up-to-date information to our My MCC portal. That's really going to allow you to access direct links to our HR, payroll, and professional development intranet web pages. So it's really going to help employees more easily find important information. With the changes to the web redesign, and the shift to an intranet, this portal is really going to help employees more easily access and find important information on our HR intranet web pages. I'd like to extend my thanks to Marielle Abumitri for coordinating this effort. And as we continue to familiarize ourselves with the resources that we need to access routinely, we'll continue to provide these updates and helpful tools for all faculty and staff. And then next slide. And finally, really just want to see that share that MCC HR here for you, and the whole team is. So if you need anything or any of these slides have prompted any questions or information that you may need, please reach out to us, and we're here for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Pramod, I believe I have you up next if you are ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope new year and new semester is off to a good start for you guys. And I just wanna I just have I think only one or two slides. So I just wanna go over the projects that we are either working or will be completing soon. So I have sent out the message about some of them in the past. One of the things we just finished is the SharePoint to the cloud. So that was the third application that is part of Office 365. So we are now fully migrated to Office 365. That gives us better communication, reliability on having the service up and running, hopefully 99.9%, because Microsoft manages that service, and you can access it from anywhere. So you can share things much easily now using OneDrive, SharePoint, and the email. Second application was OneDrive that we also completed recently. And I don't know how many of you already using it, but if you are not, it is like your H drive if you have used in the past. It's your personal storage in the cloud that you can access from anywhere. You can give people access to the things that you want. Currently, you can only give access to the people who are on the MCC portal, because we are not allowing it to the external people yet, but that would be the next project once we kind of test it out, make sure the security-wise it's good to share with external people. Other one is Banner 8 would be kind of out of support end of this year, so we have to make sure we migrate to SSB 9 or self-service Banner 9 soon. So we are already started working on it. So hopefully we will have the test environment soon for people to test it out. Well, the new application that we are implementing is self-service password reset. The one that we have, it's homegrown, and it doesn't have all the feature that you see in real world where you use the password reset. So this new application is gonna give us more feature, more flexibility, more option to easily reset the passwords, and less calls to enrollment or HR or IT to get the password reset. So it's in the testing phase. So hopefully we will have that in production soon. Cybersecurity lab, we moved it from Pollard to 403 in Common Center next to the IT area. And because we are leaving Pollard by end of June, Same thing for the cyber security server that is still hosted in Pollard. The plan is to move that one as well during the summer. So that will be coming over to the same location. Windows 10, Microsoft is gonna stop supporting Windows 10 soon. So we already started migrating people from Windows 10 to Windows 11. You might already be migrated over and you may not have noticed. So so far it's been going pretty good. And Bedford Service Desk staff and walk-in center, I don't know if you guys already got a chance to look at it, but that is relocating to a better location so it's accessible and people can find it easily in the same building, but on the ground floor. So it's almost completed. I believe it should be at least walk-in services should be all set by end of this week. We also the plan this year for the classrooms is to evaluate the technology that we have in there and upgrade them to make sure that it kind of help the teachers or professors and students make sure they can conduct their classes better. We get a lot of online application registration from outside the country for the fraud and to get like gain some funds that government provides. So we will be implementing an application that will try to stop them, if not 100%, but it will definitely help enrollment. Right now, they are doing a great job by manually identifying these applications, but with this application, we will give them some time back to do other things instead of wasting their time on this to find the fake accounts or fraud people. Beth, is there any other slide? That's the one.
There
Okay,
is
and
not.
yeah, there's one thing I want to mention is I sent out a message out for our old email address that we will be kind of shutting down around March 16. So if you haven't updated people that your email has changed, please do so. Because, and especially for the application where you are using that old email address to reach out. Because if you have an application where you're using the old email address, you try to reset the password, it's not gonna come to you. So please change your email address to those application. And if you need any help, reach out to Service Desk and they should be able to help you on that. So I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. And now, Maria, you are next.
Thank you so much, Beth. Would you be sharing the slides or do you want me to? Oh, perfect. Thank you. So this afternoon, I'm going to be sharing some updates from the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Belonging and the Center for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. This is a quick outline. Feel free to go to the next slide, Beth, please. The National Day of Racial Healing was observed throughout the country officially on January 21st. Here at Middlesex, we are celebrating it today and tomorrow. This morning, we had a couple of racial healing circles that included a lot of students, as well as staff and facilitators and instructors from the Intensive English Institute. It was a wonderful opportunity. We had a very valuable sense of community and an opportunity to connect with all of them. So it was very powerful. Thank you to everyone who made it possible. I'm sure they appreciated it, and we also did as facilitators. Tomorrow, we're going to be having a larger celebration when it comes to, the space and what we're going to be doing. We're going to have a panel discussion that includes Eloisa de Cunha, Jordana Shaw, and Vera Uy, who are three of the many facilitators we have on campus who have been wonderful with their time their commitment to the Center for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. And so we will be highlighting a lot of the work that has been happening here at the college and at the center for the last few years. That will take place in the lower CAF here in Lowell from 12 to 1:30. We will be ending sharp at 1:30 because I know Arlene has her chairs and coordinators meeting at
So
2
I have a quick
p.m.
thing that came up.
At 2, someone is not muted.
So a student.
Thank you. We will be promptly ending at 1:30 so that folks can head to Arlene's coordinators and chairs meeting in Bedford. So if you have not had a chance to register, please take a quick 10 seconds to do so by scanning that QR code. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Shalise with any of them or myself. If you want to bring your class, we're going to have food, but we would appreciate a heads up before the end of today in case we need to adjust the lunch food, because we will have lunch. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. We also have another signature event this spring semester, which is the Day of Love, Acceptance, and Belonging on Wednesday, April 16, beginning at 10 a.m. That will include the Belonging Project mural, which has become something we've done here at the college for the last couple of years whenever we've had this celebration. And it will also include a teaching on community activism by Anita Ali, who is an artist being brought in partnership with the Commonwealth Honors Program and the Asian Studies Development Program. There might be one more addition to the day. We're still working on it, so I will keep that update for the future. That's another QR code to register for the upcoming April event. Thank you. Now, affinity groups and racial healing circles will continue to take place throughout this semester. We did have the one this morning I already mentioned. We have on January 31st, the BIPOC affinity group space, which will take place on Zoom. This QR code will bring up every one of these opportunities, and you can fill your availability if you would like to attend any of them. We do have the LGBTQ+ one taking place in person this Friday here in Lowell and Co 1302 from 12 to 1. We will have lunch provided that day. For working mothers, that affinity group is meeting on February 4th in Bedford Cafe East from 12:30 to 2. There has been an email that was already circulated, but again, if you register, we will continue to keep you updated and send you the respective calendar invites. And the first generation will likely also be meeting, but we will have more information to you when that group schedules their spring gathering. And last but not least, the Equity and Accessibility Policy Review Tool is something we've been working on as part of the review of practices and policies with an equity lens. Really focus and with Stella Bensimon's 12 equity-minded indicators in mind. So this is directly under the work that we're doing in the Strategic Leadership Council Goal 1. And in particular, it's really describing actions that demonstrate individuals' capacity to recognize and address racialized structured policies and practices that may produce and sustain racial inequities. There is a tool that we have developed here at the college. We have already looked at 2 separate policies from different areas. I want to thank both Karen Townsend, Leonard Ross. Jamie is co-chairing this group with me, so please reach out if you're interested and if you have any questions. If you would like to put any practice or policy that you have through that tool, we're happy to talk to you. It's really not painful, I promise. And we have now developed a very nice flow. It only took us 1 hour, as long as people read the practice and or the policy as part of the homework. It's really nice. We're in a good place, and we have 2 very committed and hardworking subcommittees who are working, one on the actual review and the other one on the set of recommendations that will go back to the person who provided the practice or the policy. Thank you. Any questions, please feel free to reach out.
So Beth, I think we can now open it up to questions, and then I will take a couple of minutes before we end to fill you in on the session that I just attended with Secretary Tutwiler and Commissioner Ortega. So
Chat is now open. Again, it's preferred for you to raise your Zoom emoji hand and we will call on you to ask your question directly, or you can submit it in the chat. And I did get one in the chat right before I opened it from Joanna. Joanna, would you like to ask that directly?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. This is for HR, for Mary, for the affirmative action in Title IX. I had been working at the state level on impact bargaining with the new 2024 regs that have come into play August 1st, but of course, nobody saw them until after that, and then didn't start to talk about it till a couple months later. So in the midst of working on that, those 2024 regs have been completely rescinded. Mary, I haven't checked the website. Can you tell me if then our website's up to date showing the 2020 regs?
Yeah, we did have both versions posted at the time. And let me just confirm that the 2024 has come down due to that injunction. And I do have, I don't know.
I just, because I've had an impact bargaining meeting this week, which has been canceled, but we're going to try to find some other time to talk briefly about where we go from here. So
yeah,
I'm not really sure what next steps are.
Answer some questions here. I'll look to see if that's still posted. And then if we need to, we'll communicate with Beth Noel and her team just to provide that update as well.
Yeah, from what I understood, that legal had asked all the colleges to, kind of pull those back until whatever. And then I don't know where it's going to go from there with impact bargaining, et cetera. And if we need to do anything more, but I was curious because I just honestly hadn't had the time to look. So
yeah,
you reminded me. Thank you.
I'll get back to you.
Marielle, do you have the answer? Because
Sure.
Marielle just put her hand up.
Yeah, just to help Mary answer that question. So we're waiting on directive from legal. They haven't given us that directive yet, Joanna. So they're both currently up right now, but we'll follow up and get back to you.
So my information from legal directly, because I'm working with Najoki and Kerry, is that individual colleges were instructed to take those down. So I was just curious where we're working from for all that. And I know that Pam was sending out information from that, and I had asked if that could wait to impact bargaining, but information went out nonetheless. So I was just curious how, where we sit with that.
So it seems like we're getting conflicting information. We'll follow up and then get back to you.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you, Mary and Marielle. Valerie, you have your hand raised. Valerie? Okay, we cannot hear you, Valerie. All right, so I am going to move to the next question that I have in chat. And this is in regards to immigration officials arriving on campus. So to be clear, should an immigration arrive, we follow the protocol. The next call is to security. Correct? Question mark.
That's correct. The very first call should be to public safety on either campus. They have protocols they're going to follow to notify whether it's Dan Martin or Leonard, depending on how what type of inquiry is being made, or Kayla from the registrars end, or myself from a public records end. But the personnel that are at the front desks or in any of these locations should instantly notify public safety, and they'll step in to assist with handling the inquiry live time.
Yeah, the idea is that ICE could be on campus or any officials could be on campus for a number of regulatory activities, some of them more traditional than others, things that we've seen before regularly in the past, but we want to make sure that we have them connected to security, and we will have someone who will then respond to exactly what the next steps will be with that particular individual, so that we're not obstructing what their process is, but at the same time, it gives us a chance to really isolate and identify what it is exactly they're asking for and how we can best respond. So first call should be to security.
Okay, so Valerie has put the question in chat. Sorry, what does wait outside mean? Please be more specific. Valerie, is this in relationship to an immigration inquiry on campus? Yes. So if that can, Pat, you can
So wait
clarify.
outside, I mean, what we're talking about is we have benches, we have common areas in the spaces. We're not saying you got to escort somebody out to stand in the middle of the quad. There's seats and benches in each of these locations that they can wait until we can get the proper folks on scene to assist them with their request. But what they shouldn't be doing is entering, and by way of the virtue of the intake points for these buildings, shouldn't be entering into private offices. And if so, they could come out into the common areas, whether it be the hallways or the lobbies for each of these spaces.
Yeah, they're entering offices is unlawful activity, and so therefore put them in a public space where they can be seen in a waiting space, whether it be a bench or an outside hallway or whatever. That's the way to address them, letting them know that you're not trying to obstruct their work, but that certainly you just need to wait for further instruction and ask them to sit.
Thank you for that question. There's currently nothing in chat, so while we have PLC here, if anyone has any questions for them, please feel free to raise your emoji hand and we will call on you, or you can paste it into chat.
And Beth, while we have a couple of moments before we let people go or people have any other questions, first I want to thank everyone on PLC for doing this. We know we, in many ways, bombarded you with a tremendous amount of information, but it's recorded and you have copies of it with links to be able to find additional information. So we think we're living and working in unprecedented times in terms of change. And so we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to go over that. I spent approximately 35 minutes with the Secretary of Education and the Commissioner today. There was a representative from every public institution on there, mostly presidents, to talk. And we had an opportunity to interact with Abby Taylor and Brett Cannon, both from the Attorney General's office. They informed us that they've already filed 2 lawsuits. One, obviously, on the birthright citizenship lawsuit, and the second lawsuit was on the executive office DEI lawsuit about the executive requirements around the conditions on grant and fair administration. So there's lawful and unlawful DEI practices, and the Attorney General office has already filed a lawsuit on those that are assumed outside of the president's power on DEI. And of course, the third that they will fund, and they said they were going to file a lawsuit within hours, is around the pause on federal funding that we just received within the last 24 hours about federal grants and federal programs, which we are getting more and more clarification, as every moment. They spent some time talking about the guidance on immigration, much of which we had talked about today, about following college policy, and the Immigration Enforcement Acts and the sensitive protected areas that have been addressed that was released, that used to be schools and places like higher education institutions that are no longer listed as sensitive areas and protected areas. But the other thing that was really clear is if we continue to follow our FERPA guidelines, our Family Education Rights and Privacy Act guidelines, and are following all of our policies, that we should be in great place. There are guidelines that are very clear about what ICE has to follow in terms of their access to information and what we can and should provide. We had some representatives from MIRA, and just to let you know, they made us feel a lot better about sort of the public charge rule and data, but there are massive protections for students. They're going to do some sessions that I'm aware of just for Middlesex. One will be on February 6th at 12 p.m. It will be a Zoom opportunity, and it will be in English, and one on February 27th at 12 p.m. That will be in Haitian Creole. We'll be getting more of these workshops out to you so that you can ask questions of the experts who are dealing with refugee rights. Their Know Your Rights presentation has been very well received. A lot of the information you're seeing in Newscaster is from MIRA and the Know Your Rights, including the red cards that we've been distributing. So just a really helpful session of how we will need to get together as a group of institutions across the state to really continue to confirm our commitment as the context of the birthplace of public education, as a national leader in education, as the Commonwealth, and our core value about serving every individual that's entitled to a high-quality education who lives in the Commonwealth, no matter of status. And that was confirmed by the Secretary, by the folks from the Attorney General's office, from the Commissioner. And so we feel that we'll continue to have access to resources going forward, and we will continually share those access with you. The most important thing is that you all feel like you can get your questions answered as we're working with students. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us on senior staff, but more specifically to Arlene, Pat, and I about if we can help in any way, and make sure that you follow the practices and policies. We're also going to try and follow up with some additional FERPA workshops to continue to give you, beyond the refresher that Kayla gave you today, some more in-depth answers about the rights that students have in terms of their own information. So do you have any other questions of us today?
I do. There was a question in here regarding ICE. Can they come into a classroom in search of a specific student? Do we ask
No.
them to wait in the hallway and contact public security?
No, they're not. First of all, on all of our campuses, first of all, Bedford's different. So if somebody walks into Bedford and you see that ICE didn't there, if ICE attempts to, it's an unlawful act for ICE to enter your classroom, first and foremost. A classroom is not a public space. So it's an unlawful act for ICE to enter your classroom, not a public space. You should be aware of that. You should send them to, if you're in Bedford, you send them to security. And if you're in Lowell, that's not going to happen, because we've got a front desk security guard on every single building, you know, which in some ways people didn't really like at first, but now it makes perfect sense. Carrying these IDs will help. They must sign in as guests, as anyone does that does any interaction within our building. And then, of course, they will immediately, our security will immediately contact one of the noted people that have mentioned about what their next steps are. So ICE cannot enter your classroom and should not be entering your classroom. You would immediately call security if that were the case.
Okay, another question. Is it unlawful or considered interference if one announces or posts that ICE is on campus or enter a building?
In other words, would someone write an announcement declaring that ICE is on campus? I don't know that that's unlawful. I'm not sure it's wise. I'm not sure what the point would be. As I've told you, we have ICE officers that have been on campus before. ICE could be on campus for a number of regulatory activities that could be about reference checking. It could be, there's a number of things that could be occurring. So the bottom line is, don't assume that every federal agent or ICE is there for any particular activity. So announcing, I'm not even sure I understand what the purpose would be.
Bill, let me just jump in really quickly just to reaffirm what we've been talking about, and we'll continue to talk about every time we have this conversation. You know, Eloisa and her folks in the Criminal Justice Department, they have had for any number of years multiple partnerships are going with law enforcement agencies that bring them onto campus as an educational tool for us to be using in classrooms, what have you. What we just are asking everybody to continue to do, and again, we understand the heightened anxiety here, but we do not want to go into panic mode. We do not want to be making decisions or reacting. You know, when you hear us, should we send out an announcement or is there a bulletin? No, we're not going to send out a, you know, emergency text to 12,000 people on a group text to say that this is what's happening. We have to fall back on the protocols that are in place, on the departments that are in place to handle these things, and we'll deal with each call respectively as they come in. But, you know, we just really need everybody to understand that we have to work together on this from an information standpoint, but also on how we're going to, you know, administratively, how we're going to handle if any of these requests do come through our system, that, you know, we're not making rash decisions because folks, you know, don't feel like they have the proper information. We're trying to give you as many safeguards and guardrails here as possible to help you feel like you're, you know, you've got the support to make, if you're, you know, if any of your folks end up in one of these situations, to provide information.
Yeah, I would encourage you to really visit MIRA's website, MIRA. I would encourage you to participate in a Know Your Rights presentation, whether they be here through Zoom, or if you want to do that before that, you can certainly go to the website. As I've told you, there are massive protections for our students. There's a lot of misinformation and fear that is out there. That shouldn't surprise any of you, but I would just reiterate what Pat has said, is that the last thing we need you to do is announce anything or make any public display. We would always comply with the law, but we are very familiar with regulations. We are very familiar with information that we have received from the Attorney General's office. We are very familiar with our own legal counsel that has given us steps based on what we see from the Attorney General's office. And that's been evolving and has come to us 3 times in the last week. So we have a heightened awareness around this. And that's why it's important for us to talk about it today. But you should not have any interruptions in your own campus or your daily work here on campus in any way. And that you have a protocol now about what has to happen if that were to happen in a particular building.
All right. Any other questions?
If not, then as always, I want to thank everyone who participated and presented today, specifically my senior staff. 2025 is going to be an amazing and challenging year for the institution. We have a lot that is happening, a lot of really positive activity across the institution. We appreciate your patience for a lot of the facility work that is going on, and thank our facility workers and the folks who are making this happen. We continue to do everything we can to really educate every student that enters through our doors, and we do that through your hard work every day. So thank you very much for attending. Next month, we'll be talking about our NECHI report. We will be sending out the full report and our response letter to NECHI, but talking specifically about the strengths of the institution as noticed, and also those areas of work that we need to do in the future. So we welcome you to the next critical conversation in February, and thank you very much for your time today. Have a great afternoon.